The fashion industry runs on betrayal. But I never thought my own sister would be the one to stab me in the back. I should have seen it coming. The way Lily would hover over my shoulder as I sketched my designs late into the night. How she'd linger in my studio, asking questions about fabric suppliers and manufacturing contacts. At the time, I thought she was just being supportive. Now I know she was taking notes for the knife she planned to plant between my shoulder blades. The thing about betrayal in the fashion world is that it happens in slow motion. You don't realize you're being gutted until you're already bleeding out on the runway. For me, it started with a text from Marco, my favorite pattern maker in Milan. "Claire, darling, the new collection is magnificent. Such a bold direction for you. Though I'm a bit confused why it's being promoted under your sister's name." I nearly dropped my phone. My fingers trembled as I pulled up Instagram, and there it was, my entire fall collection, every piece I'd spent the last year perfecting, being unveiled at a pop-up show in Soho. But instead of my name on the banner, it was Lily's. My baby sister, who'd never designed so much as a hair scrunchie in her life, was being hailed as fashion's newest wunderkind. The rage that filled me wasn't hot. It was arctic. The kind of cold that burns. I'd always been the responsible one, the serious sister. While Lily floated through life on charm and good looks, I'd worked my way up from fashion school, through unpaid internships, assistant jobs, and endless nights of sewing until my fingers bled. I'd earned every thread of my success. And now Lily had stolen it all with a few forged documents and her signature dazzling smile. The worst part? She was playing it perfectly. In interviews, she spoke about being a hidden talent, claiming she'd been designing in secret for years, too intimidated by my success to show her work. The fashion world ate it up. Everyone loves a Cinderella story, especially when it comes with a dash of family drama. But Lily had forgotten something crucial: in fashion, like in war, logistics win battles. And I knew every inch of the battlefield. I started making calls. Not to lawyers or the press, that would be too obvious. Instead, I reached out to the pattern makers, the suppliers, the factory owners. All the invisible people who really make the fashion world turn. The ones Lily didn't even know existed. "Hey, remember that special silk blend I developed? The one Lily's using in her collection? Funny story about that." One by one, I laid my traps. A whispered word here about modified designs. A leaked email there about unauthorized pattern use. I was careful never to make direct accusations. Just raised questions, planted seeds of doubt. The fashion industry loves nothing more than watching a rising star fall. Within weeks, the whispers began. Blog posts analyzing similarities between Lily's collection and my previous work. Instagram side-by-sides showing identical construction details. Twitter threads from industry insiders about the impossibility of a complete novice producing such technical designs. Lily, drunk on success, didn't see the storm coming. She was too busy giving interviews about her creative process and artistic vision. Each time I saw her on social media, spinning lies about her non-existent design background, I added another name to my contact list. Another piece to the puzzle that would bring her down. The killing blow came from an unexpected direction. Remember Marco, my pattern maker? He had kept every email, every sketch, every revision I'd sent him while developing the collection. When those leaked to Women's Wear Daily, it was over. The timestamp trails were undeniable. I watched from my apartment as Lily's empire crumbled. Her investors pulled out first, then the retailers. The pop-up shop closed overnight. Her Instagram followers plummeted. The same fashion blogs that had praised her fresh perspective now wrote scathing exposés about fashion's biggest fraud. She came to my door on a rainy Tuesday night, mascara running down her face. For a moment, I saw my little sister again, the girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who cried when I left for college. "Claire, Please, she sobbed. You have to help me. They're saying terrible things. My reputation is ruined. I'll never work in fashion again. I looked at her, this beautiful, selfish creature who had tried to steal my life's work, and felt nothing but ice in my veins. You did this to yourself, I said, and closed the door. The fashion world moved on, as it always does. I released my collection under my own name the following season. The reviews called it my best work yet, praising its raw emotion and unflinching honesty. No one mentioned Lily. Sometimes, late at night, I think about forgiveness. About family and blood and bonds that are supposed to be unbreakable. But then I remember the look in Lily's eyes when she thought she'd won, the casual way she tried to erase me from my own creation, and I know, some betrayals cut too deep to heal. The fashion industry runs on betrayal. But now everyone knows, mess with Claire Bennett, and you'll learn exactly how sharp a stiletto can be. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. In my case, it was served on a runway, with perfect lighting and an exclusive guest list. And my sister? She learned the hard way that in fashion, like in life, what goes around comes around, sometimes wearing designer labels and carrying a Birkin bag. The story made the rounds in fashion circles for months. Some called me cruel, said I should have handled it privately, kept it in the family. But they didn't understand. In the fashion world, your name is everything. Your designs are your children. When Lily stole mine, she didn't just betray my trust, she tried to steal my legacy. The funny thing about legacy, though, is that it's built on more than just designs and labels. It's built on relationships, on trust, on the quiet agreements between artists and artisans that keep the fashion world spinning. Lily never understood that. She saw the glamour, the spotlight, the adoration. She never saw the years of work, the countless favors given and received, the delicate web of connections that makes it all possible. That was her fatal flaw. She thought stealing my designs was enough. She never realized that without the foundation I'd built, the trust of my suppliers, the loyalty of my pattern makers, the respect of the industry, those designs were just pretty pictures on paper. In the end, that's what brought her down. Not the legal evidence, though that was damning enough. Not the industry gossip, though it certainly helped. What really destroyed Lily was her own ignorance. She tried to play in a world she didn't understand, wielding stolen weapons she didn't know how to use. The aftermath was harder than I expected. Our parents were devastated, of course. They couldn't understand how their daughters, once so close, had become strangers wielding success like switchblades. They tried to arrange reconciliation dinners, family therapy sessions, holiday gatherings designed to force forgiveness. I declined them all. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. The fashion world, ever hungry for drama, tried to spin it into a cautionary tale. Features about sibling rivalry in creative industries. Think pieces about the price of success. Documentaries exploring the dark side of fashion's family dynasties. I turned down every interview request. Let them speculate. I had said everything I needed to say with my work. Lily disappeared from New York after that. Last I heard, she was in Los Angeles, trying to reinvent herself as a lifestyle blogger. Sometimes I see her comments on fashion Instagram posts, offering hollow praise and desperate attempts to stay relevant. Each time, I block the account and move on. Some ghosts are better left unacknowledged. People ask me if I regret it. If I couldn't have found a gentler way to handle the betrayal. A more sisterly approach to justice. They don't understand that in fashion, like in family, sometimes the deepest cuts come from the ones who know exactly where to stick the knife. I don't regret my revenge. I regret trusting her in the first place. I regret the years spent nurturing a viper in my studio, mistaking her envy for admiration. But the revenge? That was just business. Fashion business. Now, when young designers ask me for advice, I tell them two things: protect your work, and choose your family carefully. Sometimes the ones you're born with aren't the ones you should keep. The fashion industry runs on betrayal. But it also runs on justice. And sometimes, if you're careful and patient and just a little bit ruthless, they turn out to be the same thing. As for me, I'm still here, still designing, still building my empire. But now my studio has security cameras, my files have watermarks, and my heart has a few more walls around it. Call it insurance. Call it learning from experience. Call it whatever you want. Just don't call it sisterly love. That died on a runway in Soho, buried under stolen designs and borrowed dreams. They say blood is thicker than water. But in my experience, success is thickest of all. And unlike family, it never betrays you, as long as you're willing to fight for it. The fashion world has moved on to new dramas, new betrayals, new rising and falling stars. But sometimes, at industry events, I still catch whispers of my story. A cautionary tale told to ambitious assistants and hopeful interns: be careful who you trust. Be careful what you steal. And above all, be careful of the quiet ones who know how to wait. Because in fashion, revenge isn't served cold. It's served in seasons. And some of us know exactly how to design the perfect downfall. Looking back now, I realize that Lily's betrayal, as painful as it was, taught me something valuable. In this industry, your greatest strength isn't your talent or your connections or even your name. It's your ability to survive betrayal and emerge stronger. To take the knife from your back and turn it into a cutting tool for your next collection. These days, my studio is busier than ever. My designs are stronger, sharper, more fearless. There's nothing like betrayal to strip away hesitation, to burn away the need for approval. When your own sister tries to steal your life's work, you stop caring what people think. You start designing for yourself, and paradoxically, that's when your best work emerges. The fashion industry runs on betrayal. But it also runs on resurrection. On the ability to take your scars and turn them into statements, your pain into power, your betrayals into breakthrough collections. Lily taught me that. It wasn't the lesson she intended, but it's the one that stuck. And that's the thing about fashion, sometimes the most important trends are the ones you never see coming. The aftermath of my revenge reshaped more than just my career. It changed the entire industry's approach to intellectual property protection. Design houses that had operated on handshake deals and verbal agreements suddenly demanded ironclad contracts. Young designers began watermarking their sketches, documenting their creative process with time-stamped videos, building paper trails that could withstand legal scrutiny. They called it the Bennett effect in industry circles. The way one sister's betrayal had exposed the vulnerability of creative work in the digital age. Fashion schools added courses on legal protection and intellectual property rights. Design studios installed security systems that would make Fort Knox jealous. Everyone became a little more paranoid, a little more protective. I didn't mind being the catalyst for this change. Better for the industry to learn from my pain than repeat my mistakes. But the personal cost was harder to bear than I let on. Our mother stopped speaking to me after the scandal broke. She couldn't understand why I hadn't handled it privately. As if privacy was still an option after Lily had paraded my stolen work across social media. Dad tried to play peacemaker, scheduling dinners I never attended, leaving voicemails I never returned. Eventually, even he gave up. The family shattered like a mirror, each shard reflecting a different version of the truth. Aunts and cousins took sides, holiday gatherings became diplomatic negotiations, and family photos developed conspicuous gaps where sisterly love used to be. But here's what nobody tells you about choosing revenge over family: sometimes it's not really a choice at all. Sometimes it's survival. Sometimes it's the only way to save the part of yourself that makes you who you are. The fashion world understood this, even if my family didn't. My next collection, titled simply Betrayal, sold out in hours. Every piece told a story of trust broken and remade. Critics called it haunting, visceral, a masterclass in turning pain into art. They weren't wrong. I wove my anger into every stitch, stitched my grief into every seam. The collection featured mirror image designs that fractured and reformed, twin patterns that diverged and destroyed each other, symmetrical pieces that fell into beautiful chaos. It was therapy through textile, catharsis through couture. The show's finale piece became iconic, a dress that appeared whole from the front but was violently torn apart in the back, held together only by red threads that looked like dripping blood. When it hit the runway, the gasps were audible. Everyone knew what it meant. Who it was for. Lily saw it too, of course. She couldn't help herself. She created a burner account just to comment on the collection's Instagram posts. Pathetic, she wrote. Using family drama for publicity. I almost laughed. Even now, she didn't understand. It wasn't publicity. It was exorcism. The dress ended up in the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute, part of an exhibition on fashion and family dynasties. The curator placed it next to other pieces with painful histories, Versace's last collection, Alexander McQueen's final show. I stood in front of it for hours during the opening, watching people's reactions. Some cried. Some nodded in recognition. Some just stared, trying to understand how something so beautiful could come from something so ugly. I wanted to tell them that's what fashion does best, transforms pain into beauty, betrayal into art, broken trust into broken ground for new growth. The industry magazines ran feature after feature about my comeback, as if I'd ever really been gone. They called me resilient, unstoppable, a phoenix rising from the ashes of family betrayal. What they didn't understand was that I hadn't risen from the ashes, I had become them. Had let myself burn away completely and emerge as something new, something harder, something that would never be betrayed again. My studio became a fortress of creation. I hired a team of lawyers to protect my intellectual property, installed security systems that tracked every sketch and sample, required NDAs that would make Silicon Valley blush. Some called it paranoid. I called it learning from experience. The young designers who interned with me learned quickly, talent wasn't enough. You had to be vigilant, had to protect your work like a mother protecting her child. Because in this industry, there's always someone waiting to claim your creativity as their own. Lily tried to make a comeback, of course. A year after the scandal, she launched a small collection under a different name. It was mediocre at best, the kind of derivative work you'd expect from someone who'd only ever copied others. The fashion world, having learned its lesson, ignored her completely. I heard through industry gossip that she tried to sell a tell-all book about our rivalry. No publisher would touch it. In fashion, there's nothing worse than being exposed as a fraud. Lily had burned her bridges so thoroughly that even her ashes were radioactive. Sometimes, late at night in my studio, I find myself sketching her face. Not as she is now, but as she was when we were young. Before ambition poisoned her, before envy twisted her into something I couldn't recognize. The sketches always end up in the shredder. The past is better left where it fell. The fashion industry has a short memory for most things, but a long one for betrayal. Even now, years later, people still ask me about her. Not directly, they're too polite for that. But I see the questions in their eyes, hear the curiosity in their careful small talk. I've crafted a response that works like a well-tailored jacket, fitted perfectly to the occasion, revealing nothing while appearing to show everything. Family is complicated, I say with a practiced smile. But fashion is forever. They laugh, relieved to be spared the messy details, and the conversation moves on. But the truth is messier than that. The truth is that every collection I create still has an empty space in it, a lily-shaped hole where sisterly feedback used to be. The truth is that success tastes different when you can't share it with the person who used to share everything. The truth is that revenge, like haute couture, is custom-made. It fits perfectly at first, but over time it can begin to chafe. You find yourself adjusting it, wondering if it could have been cut differently, tailored more gently. But like any bespoke piece, once it's made, it's made. There are no returns, no alterations, no going back to the fitting room. So I move forward, season after season, collection after collection. I've become known for my uncompromising designs, my fierce protection of creative rights, my mentorship of young designers. The betrayal that could have destroyed me instead defined me, shaped me into someone stronger than I ever thought I could be. The fashion industry runs on betrayal, yes. But it also runs on reinvention. On the ability to take what's broken and make it into something new. Something stronger. Something unexpected. That's what I did with my career, with my art, with myself. I took the shards of sisterly love and forged them into something else. Something that couldn't be stolen or copied or betrayed. They say time heals all wounds. But in fashion, we know better. Time doesn't heal, it transforms. Takes our scars and turns them into statements, our pain into patterns, our betrayals into brands. Lily taught me that. It wasn't the lesson either of us wanted, but it's the one we'll both have to live with. Because in the end, that's what fashion is, the art of transformation. Of taking the raw material of our lives, the joy, the pain, the betrayal, the triumph, and turning it into something beautiful. Something that will last. Even if the relationships that inspired it don't. The story should have ended there. A clean break, a lesson learned, a new chapter begun. But life, like fashion, rarely follows the expected pattern. 5 years after the scandal, I received an invitation to speak at Parsons School of Design. The topic? Protecting creative rights in the digital age. The irony wasn't lost on me. My sister's betrayal had turned me into an expert on something I'd never wanted to know about. The auditorium was packed, standing room only. Young designers with hungry eyes and sketchbooks clutched like shields. Seasoned professionals who'd seen their own work stolen, copied, betrayed. Even a few fashion journalists, their phones ready to catch any hint of fresh drama in the Bennett saga. I took the stage in one of my own designs, a power suit in midnight blue with architectural shoulders and razor-sharp lapels. Armor, really, though few would recognize it as such. The lights were bright, the audience silent, expectant. The fashion industry, I began, is built on trust. A ripple of surprise went through the crowd. They'd expected anger, perhaps. Bitterness. A cautionary tale about sisterly betrayal. Instead, I gave them something else, a masterclass in survival. For 2 hours, I laid it all out. The legal protections every designer needs. The digital safeguards that should be second nature. The importance of documenting every step of the creative process. But more than that, I talked about resilience. About turning betrayal into fuel for creation. About the fine line between protecting your work and becoming paralyzed by fear. Your designs are your children, I told them. Protect them fiercely. But don't let that protection become a prison. Create fearlessly. Trust carefully. And always, always keep receipts. The laughter that rippled through the audience was knowing, understanding. These were my people. They got it. After the lecture, during the Q&A, a young student stood up. She was trembling slightly, but her voice was clear. "Ms. Bennett," she said, "what would you say to your sister now, if she were here?" The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop, or in this case, a pencil sketch. I looked at the student, really looked at her. She had the same hungry look I'd once seen in Lily's eyes. The same desperate need to succeed at any cost. I would tell her, I said slowly, that she taught me the most valuable lesson of my career, that true creativity can't be stolen. You can copy a design, but you can't copy the soul that created it. You can steal a collection, but you can't steal the ability to create the next one. The answer made headlines, of course. Claire Bennett breaks silence on sister scandal. Fashion's famous feud, 5 years later. Bennett speaks, creativity, theft, and moving forward. What the headlines didn't capture was the change in the industry itself. The way my story had become a watershed moment, a line in the sand between the old way of doing things and the new reality. Design houses that had once operated on trust alone now had digital vaults that would make tech companies envious. Young designers arrived at Fashion Week with portfolios of evidence proving their creative process. The entire industry had evolved, adapted, armored itself against betrayal. But evolution comes with a price. The openness that had once characterized fashion's creative community had been replaced by something more guarded, more paranoid. Collaboration became more difficult. Innovation slowed. The spontaneous exchange of ideas that had once driven the industry forward became more calculated, more controlled. Some blamed me for this change. Said my very public revenge had poisoned the well of trust that fashion depended on. They weren't entirely wrong. But they weren't entirely right either. Because alongside the caution, something else had emerged, a new kind of solidarity among designers. A understanding that we were all vulnerable, all potential victims of theft and betrayal. This shared vulnerability created its own kind of trust, harder, more practical, but perhaps more durable than what had come before. I saw it in the mentorship programs that sprang up, designers helping designers protect their work. In the industry-wide initiatives to fight copying and counterfeiting. In the way established houses began supporting young talent not just with opportunities, but with legal resources and protection. My own studio became a kind of sanctuary for young designers learning to navigate this new landscape. I taught them everything I'd learned, not just about design, but about survival in an industry where beauty and betrayal often went hand in hand. Your greatest protection, I would tell them, isn't legal or technical. It's your ability to keep creating. To keep moving forward. To make each collection better than the last. Because that's the one thing no one can steal, your future. As for Lily, well, karma has a way of completing the circle. Last month, I heard she'd had her own designs stolen by an assistant. The irony would be delicious if it weren't so sad. She tried to contact me when it happened, probably hoping I'd help her fight back. I didn't respond. Some lessons need to be learned firsthand. The fashion industry keeps turning, season after season. Trends come and go. Stars rise and fall. But some things remain constant, the thrill of creation, the risk of betrayal, the endless dance between trust and protection. I've made my peace with my part in this dance. My collections continue to push boundaries, challenge expectations. But now they carry something extra, a kind of strength that comes only from being broken and rebuilding yourself, piece by piece. They say that in fashion, everything old becomes new again. Styles return, trends resurface, the wheel keeps turning. But some things, once changed, can never go back to what they were. Some transformations are permanent. Like the transformation of an industry that learned to protect itself. Like the transformation of a designer who learned to turn betrayal into art. Like the transformation of a sister who learned that sometimes, the price of survival is letting go of the past entirely. The fashion industry runs on many things, creativity, ambition, timing, luck. But most of all, it runs on truth. And the truth is, sometimes the most beautiful designs come from the darkest places. Sometimes the strongest collections are built on broken trust. Sometimes the most important lesson is the one that hurts the most to learn. That's my legacy now. Not just my designs, but my story. The way it changed the industry. The way it continues to change young designers who hear it and recognize their own vulnerabilities, their own potential for both betrayal and strength. Because in the end, fashion isn't just about clothes. It's about transformation. About taking what's raw and painful and real, and turning it into something beautiful. Something lasting. Something true. Even if the truth isn't what we thought it would be. Even if the price is higher than we wanted to pay. Even if the end result looks nothing like what we originally designed. Because that's the thing about fashion, about family, about betrayal and revenge and redemption, sometimes the most important designs are the ones we never planned to create. And sometimes, the most perfect revenge is simply refusing to become what betrayed you.